Hello everyone. Today I would like to talk about rough bumps on the back of the arms. That is the most common location, but in reality they can occur in many different places, including the thighs, further down on the arms, the back, the chest, the abdomen, even on the cheeks you can get rough bumps. So it's a very common condition. It's something called keratosis pilaris, and I have heard individuals say all sorts of things like oh, it's a food allergy, or it's something that I'm in particular that I'm eating, or it's a food sensitivity. I've heard individuals feel like it's gluten that they're eating in their meals. In reality, it's not related to any of those things. It's a condition of dry skin. And if you look closely at these bumps, what you will see is that each individual bump is located on a hair follicle, and each hair follicle has a little core, like a white core, that if you pick at it, you can actually scratch that core off, almost like a little grain of rice. And you could sit there and pick at all of them and get a little grain of rice out of them. But the reality is that if you do that, you will cause inflammation. We say that it's excoriated or scratched. It can sometimes even develop an overlying infection or eczema. So it can really complicate things when you pick at it. And the back of the arms it's the most common one, and it's the one that individuals tend to pick at the most. Because it's a condition of dry skin, what I typically recommend is moisturizers. Now, I do have my favorite moisturizers that tend to work for this condition. Those particular moisturizers tend to have either lactic acid or salicylic acid, because not only do they moisturize and soothe the skin, but in addition to that, they have the lactic acid or the salicylic acid that exfoliates that overlying core so that the skin appears much smoother. So whenever individuals use those and they feel like they don't work, I then go back and say, well, this is really a condition of dry skin. Maybe what you need is a heavier moisturizer. And there are many different very heavy moisturizers, including creams. Typically, a cream in a jar is going to be much heavier at moisturizing than, say, a lotion, because a lotion tends to be more liquidier, or more like liquid, and it's easier to spread, but it's also not as it doesn't have as many emollients in it, so it's not going to do the job that you need it to do. A cream, on the other hand, happens to be in a tub, and you'll notice that it is heavier when you're putting it on. It's harder to actually spread, but that also has a heavier emollient and it works better. And then, of course, there are the ointments that are really thick, like petrolatum, and they're difficult to spread, and those are really the best moisturizers. So when individuals tell me, well, these lactic acid or salicylic acid based moisturizers are not working for me for my bumps on the back of my arms, then I say, well, maybe we need to switch gears and try like a heavy based cream, or a heavy ointment like petrolatum. And inevitably they will see improvement. Sometimes I like to combine them, like I'll do a moisturizer, a petrolatum at bedtime, because it really penetrates over the course of the night, and then in the morning put on like a lotion that happens to have lactic acid or salicylic acid to add that exfoliation for those little cores in the individual hair follicles. It's one of these things that is not perfect for everyone. You have to play around with the moisturizers that are out there, and when something doesn't work, add or subtract accordingly. There are certainly other products that can be used. Any product that has a mild like a low concentration of like glycolic acid can also be tried and has been successful in my experience in the past. Also, those that have a low concentration of like urea. There's so many products out there, and there are some products that have a combination of those, like they have a little bit of lactic acid and a little bit of urea. So it's really playing around with the types of lotions and moisturizers that are out there that have these types of exfoliating agents, as well as the heavier moisturizers, trying to reach a happy medium that exfoliates the skin so that you don't feel that roughness, and yet at the same time moisturizes and gives that deep moisture that the skin so desperately needs, because that's why those bumps are there in the first place. But what is not recommended, it is not recommended that that you routinely scratch at them or pick at them. You may feel like your skin is smoother, but it's not getting anywhere. It's not fixing the problem. It's just temporarily giving you smooth skin, maybe 24 hours, but inevitably you'll get them right back. Moisturizing appropriately in the long run, I believe, gives you better results. So yes, highly recommend that you keep your hands off and don't pick at them. If you find that there's too much inflammation, if you're questioning, well, maybe I'm getting maybe I'm getting secondarily infected. If you begin to see actual pimples with little pus pockets on the arms, well, that already probably is a folliculitis that has a little bacterial infection there, and may need something like a topical prescription strength antibiotic to treat it before you get to do the moisturizing that I just described. So it's tweaking, it's very individualized, it's different for different people. What works for one person doesn't work for the next person, even within the same family. So if you find that you happen to have these rough bumps on your arms, on your legs, on your abdomen, chest or back, face, you've already tried some of the over-the-counter products that I just mentioned, and you're finding yourself frustrated, you don't know where to go, it's probably not a bad idea to go in and be evaluated by a team that's supervised by a board-certified dermatologist. Remember, we see this on a daily basis. So we know how to evaluate it, treat it, and give you some ideas on what your next step could potentially be, because the truth is that the options are wide open. And that's that I haven't even mentioned some of the prescription strength products that you could potentially try. From the Alamo City, this is Dr. Ana Sauceda, helping you put your best face forward. Take care.